Hello peeps, welcome back to Big Deck Playa with me, Matt Sparks. Today we're going to make you feel a little bit dirty, we're going to make you feel a little bit cheap with this Face Druid deck, brought to you by Marine King on Hearthstone.com. Okay, so, as I mentioned, it is a face deck. He's called it Facebook. I'm not quite sure why. I'm sure there's probably a really good reason for it, but maybe it's just because Facebook makes you feel dirty and cheap. I don't know. But that's what he's called it, so that's what it's called. So we start off, we have 2 Innovates. There's no Wild Growth in this deck, because you don't really want to spend too much time casting spells that don't really get you anywhere. Innovates are there so you can get some bigger stuff out earlier, but you're going to be primarily going for face as much as possible. Obviously, if you can make value trades to protect your stronger minions or whatever, then that's cool, but your primary target is your opponent's face. If you've played any face decks before, then you'll probably be pretty good with this one. So we've got 2 Innovates, we've got 2 Abusive Sergeants, because I think most aggro decks have Abusive Sergeants in just because they're so good, because it means you can either use them to trade up quite effectively, or you just use them to do more damage to your opponent's face, which is very nice indeed. 2 Leper Gnomes, guaranteed 2 damage from these, regardless of who you're up against, unless they use a silence on it. And if they're going to use a silence on a Leper Gnome, then okay, because there's other things in the deck that would probably warrant a silence more than Leper Gnomes. So you're guaranteed 2 damage to the enemy hero with these Leper Gnomes, so that's not too bad. If you can get some more damage out of them, even better. Obviously, using these for the effective trades is probably quite useful, because you can still use their 2 damage to take out an enemy minion, but you're still going to get that 2 damage to the face of your enemy hero, so that's pretty nice too. Worgen Infiltrator, very nice, especially effective against mages, because they can't kill it straight away until it's attacked, so that's guaranteed 2 damage out of that, unless they use some kind of random spell and they happen to get lucky. I guess if they use an Arcane Missiles, they might get lucky and take it out, but in general, Worgen Infiltrator will stay alive to do that 2 damage. 2 Haunted Creepers. Now these are not great because they don't do a huge amount of damage, but they're a fairly solid creature for 2 mana because they've got the 2 health. And they also have the 2/1/1 spiders. Now that combos very nicely with the next card, which is the Knife Juggler. So if you've got the Haunted Creeper out already, you can put the Knife Juggler out and then use the Haunted Creeper to kill off something that's already on their board, giving you the 2/1/1 spiders, and then effectively giving you 2 1 damage knives that come out from the Knife Juggler. So that's a nice combination to make. Plus, because we've got a lot of fairly low cost creatures in this deck, Knife Juggler is really effective because you can pop Divine Shields and you can take out enemy minions with low health. I've found I've come up against quite a few aggro decks whilst playing this deck, which is slightly unusual because I don't normally come up against them when I'm playing anything else. But since I'm playing aggro, I've been facing a lot of other aggro decks. So Knife Jugglers can be useful. I don't think it's a good idea to have them both out at the same time unless you're feeling really confident, because I like to have one in reserve in case one of them goes down. So, you know, if one falls prone to a Frostbolt or a Fiery War Axe, you've got another one there in reserve just in case. 1 Loot Hoarder. I think this is the only form of card draw. I don't know. Well, no, there is some more card draw, but it's not till later on in the deck. So, early game card draw, this is it. So, yeah. I don't suppose it really matters too much if this dies. This is another one, because it's got the Death Rattle. This is another one I guess you could use for trades, just so that you get that card draw. And again, if your opponent really wants to silence it to stop you getting that card draw, then okay. It's not really a big deal. At 3 mana, we have 2 Savage Roar. Now, we all know the combination of Savage Roar and Force of Nature. It is in this deck, and for that reason, it will make you feel a bit dirty and a bit cheap. But the fact that we've got all these other cards in there will make you feel even more so. And there's 2 Savage Roars as well, so you could Force of Nature, Savage Roar, Innovate, Savage Roar, turn 10 if you get that far. Although, to be honest, I don't think I've really made it. If you get to turn 10, you're probably going to lose. Because there's nothing really very big in this deck, and there's nothing to get rid of anything very big in this deck, particularly. So, yeah, you kind of want to finish them before then. If you've got Haunted Creepers on the board and they've got their 1/1 spiders, that's you're going to get more value from Savage Roar than if you've just got the 1 Haunted Creeper on its own. With 2 Scarlet Crusaders, because these will probably trade with 2 things, or at least a hero power and 2 things. No, a hero power and 1 thing, even. Scarlet Crusader's pretty good. And 3 damage for 3 mana is not to be sniffed at. Talking of 3 damage for 3 mana, we have a Wolf Rider. So this is essentially the same stats as a Scarlet Crusader. Scarlet Crusader survives a bit longer, but the Wolf Rider has charge. Turn 1, you could Innovate and Wolf Rider if you have those in your hand, but I would suggest if when you're coming to Mulligan, you just stick to trying to get stuff like the Leper Gnome, Organ Infiltrator, Haunted Creeper, Loot Hoarders, Knife Jugglers, Abusive Sergeant, that kind of stuff. 1 and 2 mana stuff is probably where you want to try and get. Swipe. Now, be careful when you use this. You might want to keep one of these in your hand just in case a Paladin pulls muster for battle and brings out all his 1/1 minions. Because your minions are all low health, that could be potentially quite bad. So keeping your swipe ready for that sort of thing is pretty good. But in general, this is your only real means of removal. So if you can, you want to do the 4 damage to the face and the 1 damage to everything else. We have 2 Keeper of the Grove. These are here more for the silence, for getting rid of taunts. Because your turn 5, you're probably going to start seeing stuff like Sludge Belcher being put down. Maybe even a Shield Master on turn 4. So Keeper of the Grove silences those and lets you get through without too much of a problem. Also, stuff like the Annoyotron. She's got Divine Shield and Taunt, silencing it. And then it's just a 1/2 minion, which is nothing. We have 1 Piloted Shredder. This is where we start to get into some of the slightly harder hitting things that we've got in this deck, but not by much. Piloted Shredder, one of those because it's pretty sticky, being a 4/3 and then having a 2-cost minion come out of it afterwards. That's pretty nice. 2 Druid of the Claw. You're probably not going to be using the taunt. You're probably going to be using the charge for this, if I'm perfectly honest. If you're having to use the taunt because your opponent is got big and scary things on the board, you're probably not going to win. It's just as simple as that, really. If you're having to taunt up, then it slows you right down, and you can't afford to be slow. You need to be fast, and you need to be knocking your opponent down as quickly as possible. So always go for the charge on this. Speaking of charge, we've got 2 Force of Nature, as I mentioned earlier. So that gives you the nice combination with the Savage Roar. The Treants die. Don't forget the Treants die at the end of the turn. So if you're not using them as a finisher, remember that they're not going to be around on the board when they die. And then, last but not least, we have 2 Starfires. So it deals 5 damage and draws a card. This is the only, apart from the Loot Hoarder, this is the only 2 cards that you can use for card draw. And if you're at turn 6 and you're needing card draw, you better hope that you get something good. So that's the deck. That is the Facebook Easy Cheesy Aggro deck. There is a link in the description which will take you to Hearthstone where you can find this deck. I've been having a lot of fun with it, but at the same time feeling a bit naughty, I guess. Feeling a bit bad about having fun with this deck, because it is just a face deck, and I don't normally like playing these decks. But this is kind of fun. I think it's just because I like Knife Jugglers, and I like playing combos with the Knife Jugglers. It's a fairly easy deck to pick up. It's a really cheap deck to craft. 1,680 dust in total. Most of these cards you'll probably have already. I think the most expensive one is the Force of Nature, because it's an epic. But virtually everything else is just common cards. So, really super cheap. Really super cheap. Which means pretty much anyone can play it. But that doesn't mean you should. And if you do play it, make sure you have a shower afterwards, because you're going to feel pretty unclean as a result playing this deck. But it's a lot of fun. But don't tell anyone that I said that it's a lot of fun, because otherwise they'll be like, you told these people this was a fun deck and now they're winning all the matches and it's horrible. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So head over to hearthstone.com, give this deck a plus rating, show the deck creators some love, and let me know how you get on if you do play this deck. Let me know how you do. If you make any videos using this deck, feel free to link them to me and I'll be sure to check them out. If you've got any recommendations for future decks, be sure to link them to me and I will check them out and I shall see what they're like. And that's the deck. Have fun with it. I will see you next week for some more Big Deck Playa. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.